Hello.
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 How's it go? What the crap? What just happened to my voice? Guys,
That was bad.
holy cow.
So embarrassing.
That was happening this morning at work too. I was like in front of everybody talking because I had to kick the day off. And my voice just kept cracking.
That's
Are you
so
going through
embarrassing.
puberty?
I might just be.
Whoa.
27. This is when it's hitting me.
Maybe it's a mustache.
I'm freaking 6'3" and I've got a mustache and I'm going to have a growth spurt soon. Maybe my mustache won't be so blonde this time around.
Maybe.
Hello and welcome to episode 42 of We Watch Movies and Then Talk About Them, the only podcast on the internet where we discuss our favorite alt-J albums. Mine is Relaxer.
Mine is an awesome wave.
I wasn't ready for this.
Go. Make a decision. Break the tie, because it's not, this is all yours.
No.
So break the tie.
Oof.
It's probably an awesome wave.
Bleh.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I'll get back to
Our
you.
friendship is based off an awesome
We've
wave.
been preparing to record the podcast for about 25 minutes now, but instead we've been talking about all J albums. I don't know how we got to that, but that's just the way things are.
Mm-hmm.
Hello and welcome to episode 42 of We Watch Movies and Then Talk About Them, the only podcast on the internet where we watch a movie and then talk about it. There may be other podcasts where people watch a movie and then talk about it, but this is the only one where we do it. My name is Andrew Westonsko, and I am the host of this here podcast, joined at my right hand in life and in all things by Becca.
Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Awesome. And to Becca's right hand and to my left hand, due to the fact that we're sitting at a circular table, able to muster the energy to join us and to actually be on the podcast this week, Sid.
Okay, here's the thing. I ran a half marathon last week.
You could have at least run a whole marathon.
I have now because I've done 2 half marathons.
That's not how it works. Okay,
Yes, it
you
is.
want to say that? I've run a marathon then.
awesome.
Good for you.
I have not run a marathon.
Congratulations.
Because I've ran like 5 10Ks, so I'm sure I've run a marathon at this point.
I'm sure you
didn't
have.
run them. You walked them.
Oh, okay, I walked a marathon. Great.
There. That's proper word.
Anyway,
Jeez.
I'm happy to be here.
We will not trash talk you this week like we did last week.
You did?
You didn't even listen?
to the
I did
episode?
not.
Sid.
We were trying to talk like you, and it wasn't going very well. Andrew was
Oh, no.
talking really high,
Yeah.
and
I
I
don't
wasn't
have a high
actually trying
voice.
that hard. I know. I was like,
Well, now I don't want to listen
I did
to
an
it.
impeccable Australian accent, though.
no, he didn't.
Do I have an Australian accent?
No, I started out doing an Australian accent, and then it veered into me imitating you to pretend like you were here on the podcast.
Oh, cool. I
Yeah.
can't wait to listen to that and then immediately call my therapist.
Jeez, the one time that you have a chance to pad the stats of the podcast to give us that one extra download, you don't do it.
I'll do it.
That's all right. Have you watched Mindhunter Season 2?
I have not.
Well, then don't listen to it because we spoil
I
it.
know, I'm not going to.
But listen to it after.
Oh,
Just listen to the beginning.
Me and Austin finished Fargo today, so we're going to start that.
Ooh, like Fargo Season 3?
Season 1. We're
Oh.
only on Season 1.
Well, then watch Season 2. It's better than Season 1.
I know, but now it's our turn for Mindhunter.
That's not how TV shows work.
Well, that's how we're doing it.
You don't watch one season of one and then go to a different season of another.
We kind of did that with Westworld.
Yeah, but that's because Season 2 is boring and we're probably not going to finish it.
Yeah.
We will probably watch Mindhunter this week.
Have you watched Season
We
1?
should. Yeah.
So you're just watching Season 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Then Austin can listen to the podcast.
Okay. No,
Great.
he's not allowed to.
You're not on that episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he can listen to that. Yeah. Okay. That's fine then.
Jeez. Hey, everybody. This is literally just us having a conversation about stuff at this point. Today, we are talking... Oh, I forgot his name. Today, we are talking about James Mangold's 2017 Oscar-nominated superhero film, Logan, starring very pasty Stephen Merchant. Also, Hugh Jackman is in this movie.
But just Steve Merchant.
Dude, he's very pasty.
Yes, he is. I mean, he's pasty to begin with.
Maybe he should get some sun.
That would kill him.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
This is why I'm not a doctor, folks. Just a podcaster. I don't know. Sir Patrick Stewart is in this movie. Some little girl.
What's her name?
Daphne Keane. I don't know what she's done. Has she done anything else?
Not really.
Daphne Keane, Logan. She plays Anna in Anna. She was in His Dark Materials, unfortunately.
I have no idea what that is.
Nope.
Oh, it's not out yet. I just assumed it was bad.
What if it's really good?
Yeah, she's in some movie coming out this year. She plays the title character. Anna meets Rafa in a chance encounter, and they embark on a road trip to try and save him from bankruptcy or worse. Does she literally only do road trip movies?
I was just gonna say that.
Andy Garcia. He's kind of creepy. Just like as a dude. Whatever. We're talking about Logan today, folks. Logan is the story of a 3-generational road trip on the quest to save the world. It's pretty good, right?
Not the world. Just the
It's
mutants.
just some kids.
Just trying to save some kids.
Yeah.
It's basically...
But I'm sure eventually down the line it could save the world.
It's basically if the people from Operation Underground Railroad had superpowers.
Yeah,
And knives in their hands.
it's fair.
Because technically the knives in his hands isn't a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
It was just that he had to have superpowers to survive getting the knives put in.
But he did have the bones.
That's true. But I don't know if having a bone, a bone deformation is a superpower.
No, but it made him strong. And
I think the invincibility made him strong.
also, wasn't he, yeah, he was already super. He had the, immortal.
Yeah, you can heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a guy.
What a guy.
It's not as cool as knives in your feet, though.
Oh, that's so cool.
Dude, I could put a knife in your foot.
I don't want you to.
You just said it was really cool.
You could put
It
him
would
in.
be cool if I had a knife.
We've
You
got-
could put
my
him
foot.
in your shoe.
But yeah.
Ooh.
Like the Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've
That'd
got
be
some
awesome.
really cool colored knives upstairs. You could even pick if you want the blue one.
To make it match
Yeah,
your
but they're,
Or
outfit.
the green
different
one.
Sizes. I would need 2.
Well,
Yeah, but-
we can go buy another knife set to get
Maybe
you matching
sometimes,
knives.
Alright.
maybe sometimes you need a paring knife, and in the other foot you need serrated.
Put a bread knife in your foot just in case you need it.
Just cook with my feet. Just have knives handy.
I don't know, dude. There's a blind woman on MasterChef, so
true.
we
It's
could
cool.
We could put knives in your shoes, cut
Well,
your
she-
arms off, and put you on MasterChef.
She was on MasterChef 10 years
Well,
ago.
yeah, she's on MasterChef season 3. But all right, folks, we're talking about Logan today, and we're feeling good. We're feeling loose. We're loose today, right?
Yeah, real off track.
We're real loose. But we're going to talk about Logan. It's a good movie, and we're going to spoil the crap out of it. So if you don't want that, then go watch it, and then come back and listen. But make sure you do the second part, because we want to get some advertisers.
Truth.
Let's see. Here's how the podcast is going to work if you're new here. We're going to do some hot takes. Quick, short opinions on the film. Then we're going to do some in-depth discussion. Following that, Sid is going to provide us with a curated list of IMDb movie trivia. She reads it all so you don't have to. Then we'll give our final opinions and score out of 10, placing this movie on the Weston scale, which is the only definitive way to rank movies from 1 to 10. Then we'll get into other topics, other things that we've been watching, and other movie news, as well as information about upcoming episodes. That's that. Let's get into it. Let's do some hot takes.
All right.
Don't burn yourself on these hot takes.
There we go. I was waiting for that.
Becca, how hot is your hot take?
It's pretty hot. Yes. Yeah, I'd say so. I have been wanting to watch this movie again ever since we watched it in theaters 2 years ago, and then bought the movie pretty quickly after that. But it has sat on our shelf for 2 years. So I was really excited to watch it tonight, and I think the thing that I like the most about this movie is something that I think I talked about when we watched Endgame and Infinity War. is that one of my biggest beefs with superhero movies is that it just never feels like the superhero gets a break, and like superheroes get tired, and it's okay for them to die, and I'm okay with that. And I want it to happen because they can't live forever. So I love that this movie gives us that. It gives us Logan when he's like done and just like falling apart, and everything's falling apart, and he's just like surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think just right off the bat, that's one thing that I really like about this movie, is that it shows that side and it gives us that story. So I guess my hot take is that I like the story of this movie.
Well, maybe that's why the screenplay was nominated for an Academy Award.
Maybe.
Could be. Sid, how hot is your hot take?
It's pretty hot.
Pretty hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like this movie. I think this is the second time that I've seen it. I can't tell if I like it more or less than the first time I saw it. I definitely had more of an emotional reaction to it the first time.
Did you not cry this time?
I didn't. I got really close.
Jeez.
I know, that's weird for me.
That is weird.
Uh-oh, my Prozac's working a little too well. Gotta get off that.
Wait, where are we on the existential dread scale today? Baseline 65, remember, people. That's where we hover on an average day.
Well, school's starting next week, so 76. It's not horrible.
That's not so bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
All right, go ahead.
But one thing I really like about this movie is, like, it's very different than most superhero movies. Like, it almost doesn't feel like a superhero movie, where it's very character driven. And of course there are like the superhero aspects, and there's the mutants and the fight scenes. But it is just more about Logan and this girl and the professor, just like pretty much just going on a road trip. Yeah, it just, like, it doesn't feel like overwhelming, kind of overblown as some superhero movies are. And there's not like this, like, there is a bad guy, but they're also just like people.
Mm-hmm.
Where in a lot of other movies, especially X-Men movies, it's just other mutants.
Yeah.
So it feels real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. My hot take is that I also enjoy this movie. I think it definitely has its flaws, which will be discussed. But I think that overall it's very successful at what it tries to do. And I think that it is a very smart movie. It takes this world that we're all pretty familiar with, the world of the X-Men, and these characters, and it leverages that understanding and emotional connection to tell a story that is very much not about the X-Men or about mutants. I mean, and we can dive into these as much as we want to, but they managed to take our collective emotional connection to the X-Men and instantly give the world gravity by saying they're all dead. That's one. Mm-hmm. Two is it manages then to take that and whether we like sit there and cry about the fact that all of the mutants are dead or not, like you start thinking over the course of the movie, you're like, oh shoot, so like Logan and Professor Xavier are still alive, but like obviously Jean Grey is dead because she can't make it through a freaking X-Men trilogy. But you think like Storm and Cyclops, because this is like the X-Men X2 and X3 timeline, I think, right?
I'm pretty sure. I don't know.
There's so many movies.
It gets messy though.
I tried to look up the timeline and it's very confusing. I choose to believe that this follows the original trilogy. And I know that the other ones are worked in, like the younger ones are worked into the timeline, but Days of Future Past and Apocalypse makes it really confusing.
Yeah.
And then
but Xavier dies in Last Stand.
Does he?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. I know that he dies. I can't remember if he like comes back.
Oh, then maybe it does follow the newer timeline. timeline.
I don't know. I try not to think about it.
I don't know. In any case, all of the mutants are gone, right? So you think like, Storm, Cyclops, Beast, Nightcrawler. These guys, they're all dead, like just gone. And so they take that and turn it into I think this movie's biggest strength when it comes to its screenplay is the world building that they do. They manage to flesh out a very complete and believable world in a way that like DC has tried to do ever since Man of Steel, basically, is to ground the world of superheroes to make it feel real and gritty, but really didn't have the balls to go all the way. And we can talk about this as well, but this is the only time I think out of any superhero movie, and I'm trying to think of an exception, because I wouldn't even say that the Dark Knight movies managed to do this. I think this is the only movie that makes superhero violence seem like it would actually be in, like, if these guys existed in the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like the brutality and how graphic it is. Mm-hmm. It's the only time that I've felt like a visceral connection with the violence in a superhero movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes for really effective world building in and of itself. But then they managed to take all of these elements and tell this story that is way more about survivor's guilt and redemption and change. And I mean, that's like one side of the coin. And then the other side of the coin is like, corporate greed and just like anti-environmentalism and kind of just the modern world and what that means for kids growing up in it now. So you got kind of these two sides of the coin. There's the extremely personal story of Logan, and then there's kind of the broader scope of, the world at large and the forces that are kind of slowly taking over the world right now. And it kind of sees a lot of the threads that we see being tugged on today take into kind of their ends. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
It's my hot take.
Cool.
So it's fairly hot. Let's see. Do we want to do good things or bad things first?
Good things.
Good things.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So what? You guys both said that you quite liked it and gave a few reasons, but let's dig in. Why do you guys connect with this movie, do you think?
I think one of the biggest reasons is Laura, I think, is a really effective character.
I agree.
And also she did a really good job acting.
Yeah, she's a little beast.
Yeah, like the first, 2/3 of the movie, she doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a really effective physical actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm just always so impressed when I see young kids act like that. Especially in a movie that's so, like, gruesome and, like, mature.
Well, you look at something like this compared to, like, what I consider the gold standard of child acting, which is Jacob Tremblay in Room.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, I think this is, on a lot of levels, a more impressive performance because and this is not to demean his performance at all. Like I just said, to me, it's the golden standard of child acting. But he really just has to act like a forlorn, overly innocent child. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he does a fantastic job at it and really carries that movie. But here, she has to communicate this like psychological torture that she's been through.
Yeah. It's just like a very different character than almost any kid would understand.
And it's a lot of trust from the director to put into her that she could pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like she manages to get this like rage that you would never expect from a girl that young.
Yeah.
Like, not to just jump into like scenes, but just the one scene towards the end where she's fighting the clone.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're totally into spoilers at this point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But like the way that she's just like stabbing him over and over and over, and just like the rage every single time she like fights someone, it's just, I don't know, it's just incredible to see.
Yeah. Well, and that like that level of commitment to put into anything, right? Like that's really psychologically taxing on a person to put themselves out there to that level, right?
Yeah.
To be, because that's like, even if you're acting hyper aggressive and like angry, that's a really vulnerable place to put yourself in. And she's, I mean, I don't know how old she is in the movie. She's 11, and she's doing that on a soundstage in front of 50 people at a time. Like that, like I said, that's a really vulnerable spot to put yourself in, and she pulls it off flawlessly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so she's absolutely a highlight of the movie. Like her acting, her character, like she like makes this movie.
No, I agree. And as incredible a performances as like Hugh Jackman and Sir Patrick Stewart put in, like the movie lives and dies on her performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree that she is like a huge part of it. But the thing that really makes me connect with it is Hugh Jackman, mostly. And it's just because like I've seen him in these movies and these roles for the past almost 20 years. And I don't know, it's just interesting to see how his character has grown, how even just like Hugh Jackman himself has grown. You know, where when we first see him, he's just like this gruff, kind of douchey guy who's just not making any connections with anyone. And then in this one, like, he has a daughter at the end. And, yeah, it's kind of like along the same lines as, like, Iron Man. When Iron Man died, yeah, that was sad. But if it were, like, the first movie he were in,
yeah, I'd
be sad, but I don't know if I'd cry as much as I did.
Yeah.
But because I've seen him in so many different situations and different movies, I've, you know, kind of like grown to love this character in different ways rather than him just being like sassy.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's what I was referring to when I say they leverage our existing connection to this, because I 100% agree with you. I agree with you, Becca, that like she turns out a fantastic performance, and like she, like I said, the movie lives or dies by her performance for sure. Mm-hmm. But I'm with Sid. I think my connection more comes through Wolverine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, I was 8 when X-Men came out, and I saw it in the theaters. Like, Hugh Jackman was Wolverine before I knew who Hugh Jackman was. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that, like I said, this movie is incredibly smart. Which makes what I'm going to talk about here, like the ways in which the movie is smart make the ways in which it's flawed even more frustrating, because I think that one of the smartest scenes in the movie is the very opening, as far as introducing you to this new world that we are in, right? Like it opens up and literally the first word is the F word. Like Hugh Jackman kind of comes awake and he's like, oh, like that's literally his first line.
Yeah.
And then we see him get the crap beat out of him by just like some thugs.
Which is something that we've never seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 2. 3 is that when he finally snaps back, it is brutal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like he just cuts a dude's head off. Like, so I think that the opening scene does such a fantastic job of, like, everybody knew going into this, we're like, oh, sweet, an R-rated X-Men movie, let's go. But, like, the first 5 minutes of this movie are, like, introducing you, like, this is an R-rated X-Men movie. Like, we are no holds barred here. Like, we are here to tell a story, and we're committed to telling it the way that it would be in the real world. Like, Logan wouldn't be some like fancy boy in a yellow jumpsuit. Like he's a gristled guy, and especially, you know, when we find out later on all that he's been through, and even if we didn't know, like even just watching previous movies, the things that he's been through, like with Jean dying and all these things, and then we find out later what he's been through, And he just becomes such an interesting and complicated character over the course of the film as we discover more about the time between the previous movies and now. His, conflicted feelings towards Xavier, and then throwing Laura into the mix, and, his nihilism being challenged for the first time in a long time, and just all these things. He becomes such a fascinating character. But I think that, like I said, the first scene is so smart because it so quickly and so effectively introduces you to the new world that we live in, and the new world that this movie is going to take place in. And I don't know, first, openings and endings are the hardest things to nail in a story, and this one does both. But that opening scene, I think, it's a really good scene. It's really well made, but I think it's so smart for putting us on the right track for the rest of the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned too, everything is just so much more graphic and brutal, but it's never the brutality is never glorified, you know,
it's not,
it could be.
It's not awesome.
Yeah, it's awful, and you feel it the way you imagine Wolverine feels it. And I think that's another through line too, is just the way Wolverine and Laura both look at violence. Laura is kind of at a point where violence is necessary,
and it's all she knows.
Yeah, she doesn't really see it as bad yet because she's killing bad people.
Yeah.
And I just think the line when they're talking about their nightmares, and Laura says her nightmares are of people hurting her, and Wolverine's are of him hurting other people.
Yeah.
I think is just really telling of how they view not necessarily violence, but how they view their powers and the effect they have on people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really do think that Wolverine in this movie is the character that Zack Snyder wanted Batman to be. Mm-hmm. Because he goes for that gristled, hardened, nihilistic attitude, but he just can't write a script to save his life. He's a really talented and stylistic director, but dude can't write a movie. So that's what I mean. It's very satisfying to see it executed well. Mm-hmm. Did Batman vs Superman come out before this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Batman vs Superman was 2013 maybe?
2016.
2016. Whoa, I was way off.
Yeah. But no, that's that's for me the biggest strength, like I said, is this story of Logan first wrestling with these demons, essentially, of all the people that he's hurt and all the things that he's done. And like I said, his just complicated relationship at this point with Xavier, and Sir Patrick Stewart putting out, holy cow, top of his game here. And then, finding out that it was Xavier that killed all the mutants. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Logan still feels like you can't abandon him, but I don't know. And then, like I said, Logan kind of receiving purpose in his life as he goes, mm-hmm. and being able to be happy one more time before dying, mm-hmm. Because he's dealing with such complicated and isolating feelings, right? Mm-hmm. Survivor's guilt is a real thing, and he very much is suffering from that here, while also battling with, I don't know, I feel like it just compounds, because he's he's suffering from survivor's guilt, but then he's also I also only survived because of these horrible things that I've done and all the people that I've killed, and all of that just compounds to be intensely isolating. Mm-hmm. And he he pulls that off so well. I don't know. It connects back to like what we were talking about with her. Like he somehow manages to put off these vibes that like he just feels so alone. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that's a very impressive thing to do, and that is due to both the screenplay and his acting, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
What else? Other than hiccups.
Sorry.
Freaking hiccuping on the podcast.
Sorry, I can't control my body.
That was a long sentence.
That was really long. I was thinking of like gastrointestinal, but I was scared that I was going to say it wrong, and I'm still scared I said it wrong.
I think you got it right.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Do hiccups have anything to do with the gastrointestinal
I don't know.
system?
I'm not a doctor.
All right.
Anyway.
But you like movies.
I do like movies.
What'd you like about this movie? Apart from Hugh Jackman.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we love Hugh Jackman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think like most of like the big things that I really liked, we've already talked about how just like it feels real and it feels like more is at stake for all the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think the violence is great. It really reminds you of like how much is at stake, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like you watch any of the other X-Men and like you see them in pain and you like see them get shot, but like you don't really see it and you don't really see people die.
Well, because especially Wolverine and the other ones, he's just invincible.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely in this one you can see the hits that he takes, and you see how it affects him, and it just like for once you're like scared for him.
Yeah. Like
I don't really remember a time being scared for him, and even just being scared for other mutants, where it's just, I don't know, it just feels like actually seeing it really shows you how much danger they're in, pretty much.
Like there's like real consequences in this
Mm-hmm.
movie, whereas most superhero movies there aren't, and that's so refreshing to see.
Yeah.
And like you both already mentioned, but like it's very real and grounded and believable, and like just
well, and we
believable.
talked about that a lot as well in our episodes for Infinity War and Endgame, that the reason that those felt like a step above everything was because there were actual stakes. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, yeah, the violence wasn't as graphic as obviously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like those movies actually felt like they had stakes, and it felt like something bad could happen. And same with Civil War. Civil War ended up kind of wussing out at the end.
Yeah.
But throughout the course of the film, you felt like this could be the end of the Avengers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's like, those are the superhero movies that really stand above others. It's the reason why Nolan's movies are so good.
Yeah.
Is like, if nothing is at stake, then
no one
who cares?
Yeah.
And that's why like the DC ones are so bad, is because they're just invincible. And like, I know that they were trying to establish the universe, and that's a whole other conversation, but I think back to the end of Batman versus Superman, where they literally, like, Superman dies and they have a funeral for him, and then the last shot of the movie are the freaking rocks hovering above his coffin.
Yeah.
Like, they immediately undo anything that was done by the movie. And like, the movie was bad up till that point, to be fair.
Oh yeah.
But like anything, like any redeeming qualities that it had of it, like actually having some balls, it just completely undid it in the last 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. So like, I think that you're right. I think that the fact that this movie seems like it has stakes, and like that bad things could happen, and I think that it just ups the ante over and over again until you hit the end of the movie. I think that one of the very key scenes for that is when Xavier dies. Mm-hmm. And he has this emotional monologue, and you think you're going to get this exposition, and then he turns around and gets stabbed in the chest by Logan. And I think that you just assume that it's a dream.
Yeah.
That it's a nightmare and he's about to wake up from it. Mm-hmm. And then you realize it's
Logan,
not.
like, you see him and you're like, that's obviously not
Well,
Logan.
you're like, that's old
like,
Logan.
that's,
He's got the shorter hair. Like, he's having a dream about Logan 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But then you realize it's not a dream. And I feel like that is when the movie really kicks into overdrive, because you're like, holy cow, they just killed Charles Xavier basically on a whim.
Yeah, like nothing. He was just sleeping. There was no reason for us to expect that anything wrong was going to happen.
Yeah.
I think another thing that is effective in the way of violence is, like, again, in past movies, in past X-Men movies, like, their main villain is Magneto, and pretty much, like, he hardly even has to touch anyone, you know, he can control everything with his mind, pretty much. But this one is just so up close, where the bad guys aren't really super. Like, yeah, they have some, like, enhancements, and they have this, genetically, you know, the X-24, but they're just people. And so it's, you know, all the fighting is up close. It's, you know, stabbing, punching. And, like, yeah, there are a few parts more towards the end when the kids use their powers. But it just, like, when it's up close, it feels...
But even then, like,
more.
they show the freezing girl, and she just, like, shatters the dude's arm.
Yeah.
And, like, even compare that with, like, Snowpiercer, for example, where they also shatter a dude's arm.
Yeah.
Like, just how visceral this one feels
like,
compared to that.
This is stuff that could actually happen. I mean, like, you couldn't, like, shoot needles, you know, like pine needles at someone and kill them. But, like, you could freeze someone's arm off. Yeah. You could stab them. You could shoot them.
Well, but I guess my point is, like, sure, you can't just shoot somebody with pine needles, but this movie does a good job of making it look like it seems like it would actually look if you could.
Yeah.
And I think that the other thing this movie does really effectively when it comes to the violence is that the violence is really sad. Like, you see Laura specifically just, like, bunny hopping around stabbing dudes in the face, and you're like, she's 11 years old and is, like, a proficient killing machine. And, like, that, again, I think that communicates a lot of the themes of the movie as far as, like, on a wider scale, but it's just really sad when you sit there and think about it. Like, I'd have a hard time. I think that people who watch this movie and are like, yeah, she's awesome, and oh, get him, yeah, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that entirely misses the point of the violence.
And I mean, I definitely said that a couple times because
I wasn't singling you out.
No,
like,
no, I know. But I totally agree with you because even just like stabbing in general is an incredibly violent act, like more so than shooting.
Well, it's very personal.
Yeah. And so when you have knives on your hands and like that's your superpower, like it just is violent. And so then, and that's like it feels fine when it's coming from Wolverine, but then when you see just how powerful Laura is and how like she can take on anyone that Wolverine can, and she's an 11-year-old girl, it just adds all like everything that you're saying. Like it feels sad and it feels like frustrating that this like
that she has to do this.
Yeah. And like she doesn't get to live.
Like, yeah. Like it's incredibly sad that she is put into this situation where at 11 years old, she's not playing with Polly Pockets or whatever 11-year-olds do. She's killing full-grown men, like by the dozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I don't know, like her end speech is killer. And like, I don't know, maybe, I'm sure that there's people out there, but like, who can relate to that, but that's just like a super harsh but true speech.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think that it's like on a wide scale relatable, but to the people who can relate to it, I think, I don't know, it's food for thought.
Yeah.
Because even where like they're talking about it, and she's like, well, I killed them, but they were bad men. Well, because Logan's like, she says, you know, that she's hurt people, and he says, well, you're gonna have to learn to live with that. And she says, well, they were bad men. He says, all the same. Like, I don't know. Like I said, it feels very grounded even in that way, like in the way that the characters treat the violence, right? Like they don't high five when a fight is done.
Yeah, they don't like fighting.
No,
it's just necessary.
Yeah. Self-defense.
I also think that I mean, I guess we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but like you can really feel like what it would be like to be like a superhero like that, like what it would actually feel like. And I think one scene, well, a few scenes, I guess, that effectively do that is when they are staying at that house with just like a regular family, and Xavier has his speech about how it was like the most perfect evening. And I think that just shows that like being a superhero is absolutely not glorified in this movie at all, and that they just want a normal life. Like they would love to just have an evening and a nice meal.
Yeah.
But they can't have that as superheroes.
Well, I think that's what Xavier wants. I think that that also effectively shows just how far gone Logan is, because he doesn't even want that.
Like that's not even on his radar as ever being a possibility.
It's literally just stay alive.
Yeah. And he doesn't even want to do that. Like,
yeah. He's doing that out of a sense of obligation to Xavier.
Exactly.
Like he feels obligated to Xavier to not die.
But it's just like a part of superheroes that you don't think about when you watch all these other fluffy superhero movies, is that like being a superhero isn't good. Like it's
well, and I think that maybe one of the clearest influences that we haven't talked about when it comes to this movie is Watchmen. Because what Watchmen is about is old superheroes.
Yeah.
Superheroes 30, 40 years later. And I think that it carries a lot of similar themes to this one, like to this movie. If you haven't read Watchmen, you should. And if you don't want to read it, then you can watch the movie, because the movie is good, but it's not as good as the book. Or graphic novel, excuse me. Yo, wackos. I mean, the wackos are the people who would yell at me for, it's a graphic novel, not a book. Shut up. Yeah. So I think that it does a very good job at telling this intensely personal story about Logan, and kind of showing the different angles and like really how conflicting everything in his life is, but also giving him an opportunity for redemption and to do something to like for the sole purpose of helping somebody else again, which is something that had been taken from him for a long time.
Yeah.
Because that's why he joins the X-Men in the first place, is, you know, even in like the first X-Men, he is given this sense of purpose by Xavier to help people, and he gets attached to Rogue, and like that's his whole thing. And then you think, you know, everyone dies all at once, and you can just imagine him being like, well, what was the point then? So, but then he gets this opportunity, this redemption arc, to be able to do something for the sole reason of helping somebody else, not out of a sense of obligation, and like just for selfless reasons. And that's really, it's really, even though it's so intense at the end, it's really moving to see him be able to do that again.
Yeah.
What else?
I mean, I pretty much talked about all the good stuff. I mean, it's just a great movie. Should we move on to the bad stuff? Well,
first, I want to mention one more thing that I thought was really interesting. We kind of talked about the small scale stuff. I think that the large scale themes are just as present and just as interesting. There's this huge through line of corporate greed. And the fact that these mutants, the mutant children, like this whole storyline only happens because of corporate greed. They're trying to turn a profit. And they even tell, you know, the nurses to think of them as things with copyrights and patents. And like just the commoditization? Is that how you would say it? Commodification. One of the two. Making people into commodities. And through boundless corporate greed, stripping people of their humanity. And I don't mean people as in like person. I mean like dehumanizing people in the eyes of people.
Yeah.
Like if you can make everything a thing and everything a commodity, then you can make a profit off of it. And that's the like natural ending point of unlimited corporate greed. I mean, you get that, and like the super farms buying up all the little ones just to make high fructose corn syrup to put into everything. And essentially the idea that this is creating a more hostile and difficult world for the children, for the next generation, that essentially they have to grow up in a world where these enormous corporations with unlimited power and money are attempting to dehumanize the populace and turn everybody against each other, basically. Like they don't, and maybe this is just getting older, and maybe every generation before mine has felt this, I don't know, but as I get older, I think like these kids just don't get to grow up in the world that we did. Like everything is more dangerous, and everything is more like, think about where the internet is going to be in 10, 15 years, and how exposed everybody is, and how like connected but separate everybody is. Like, and that again ties back to Her from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But like the movie takes these kids and shows you like, this is the world. And maybe I am saying this, I don't know. Some company at some point is going to try and make super kids and sell them. Like, and we know that there are these underground, child sex trafficking rings, and like Jeffrey Epstein is a real dude who like ran these huge things, and he's not the only one. And like, this is what the world is turning into as a result of this just boundless greed. And it shows you like children don't get to be children the same way that they used to anymore. Even you think about like YouTube Kids getting just like totally invaded with these disgusting perverted videos of cartoon characters doing sex acts and stabbing each other, and like all these, like it just like it brings all of this into focus a little bit, that like because of this, like kids don't get to grow up in an innocent world anymore, because at any point they could grab a smartphone and stumble upon a video of somebody being beheaded, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sucks.
That's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't offer like, I mean, it does offer at the end a hopeful vision, like the kids can fight for a better world, and by extension we can fight for a better world. But like,
well, and it's like they're tougher too, like,
yeah, because they
Laura
have to be.
and the other kids are way tougher than any of the mutants were in any of the movie, like any of the kids were.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's because they have to be. But like, that's where the hope is, I think, is that like kids are stronger.
Well, but I guess that's the point, is like the movie does end on a hopeful note, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of that whole through line, is like it's trying to bring more into focus these ideas and the reality of the situation. And sure, it dramatizes it and makes it a little more extreme by, making them mutants and having to kill people and everything like that. But like, it brings it into focus, but then says like, we can fight for a better world, kind of a thing. That's what I get from it anyway.
And yeah, like all the corporate greed and all the crazy things that are happening in this world, like in the Logan world, don't feel that far off from real life.
No, absolutely not. If it came out tomorrow that there was some company trying to breed kids in test tubes to give them superpowers, I would not be even the smallest bit surprised.
Or like, even if you started something like the super farms or whatever, like,
well, that already exists.
I know, but like getting crazier and like farming.
Yeah.
I mean, farming is already like becoming extinct as a career, but yeah, like it's little things like that, and the automated trucks, and not that any of those things are like evil in of themselves, but like,
well, but it's elimination of jobs. Like,
yeah.
I mean, this isn't a political podcast. We're not trying to get too political.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't know, that stuck with me as well, so I wanted to mention it. So yeah, jumping in, what I said earlier is that the strength of this movie lies so much between its performances and the world building and a lot of the dialogue, which makes it all the more disappointing that the places where it falls short are a few places where the screenplay really stumbles, I think. We praised pretty heavily the violence and its thematic effects, but then the bad guy has literally, when Caliban lets off the 2 grenades, he and Metal Arm Guy are the same distance from the grenades. Metal Arm Guy walks away, and we see Caliban's body, and it's just like shredded.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just like some serious inconsistency there.
like Metal Arm Guy did have like the outside to be thrown to, whereas
even that,
Caliban
like,
was inside. but
Explosion shockwaves would shatter his bones.
yeah,
Like, you don't walk away from a grenade at that close.
Yeah.
no,
And I guess this thing is like, they didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they were painted into a corner. Like, well, we got to have these grenades go off. Like, and then even like, there's a few like Deus Ex Machina moments, like where Logan is fighting the clone, and then out of nowhere, the farmer dude comes out of his truck and gets out and dies 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm trying to think. There's a couple others, like the cell phone video. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
hate when movies force us to just like forget how cell phones work. The idea that like he would grab her phone, and 1, it wouldn't have a password on it,
yeah.
and 2, it would just immediately be pulled up to this video that there's absolutely zero chance that she could have ever possibly had.
Yeah.
Because a place like that would not let you in the building with electronics.
Yeah.
Of any
or
sort.
Even just like take all these videos and edit them and do like voiceover. It's like
Yeah.
you were on the run for your life. I don't think you were just on the computer editing that.
And that's the thing, is like where the opening scene does such an effective job of show don't tell. And then there's this whole scene of him just watching a cell phone video to get us up to speed.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's frustrating because it has these things and it shows that it can do them so well. And then there's just other parts of the movie where it falls totally flat on its face in those same aspects.
Well, and like we pretty much got what was happening in the lab without the video. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they could have just told it through context clues, essentially. Or even like,
I think.
did
sorry.
they have to kill Gabriella right away as well? You know what I mean? Like, could they have not written in there where she explains it to him a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the main purpose of that video was to like introduce the clones. Because at the end of the video, it talks about how, like, oh, like, we can't... They thought that they could train the children to not have consciences, but they couldn't, so then now they're doing something worse.
Yeah,
And
it
then
was
that
probably
introduced the
just
clones.
like an easy way to explain it. Because, I mean, like, yeah, it is different than, like, another, like, X-Men movie where it's... the plot is a little bit deeper and there's, like, themes to it. But also, like, you're still going to attract the same crowd as a superhero movie. And, I don't know, maybe they honestly didn't have faith in the audience to be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, they just kind of wanted, spell it out fast and foreshadow the X-24.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a good point, that, like, that's definitely a flaw. But it didn't bother me that much, just because it was over quickly and we got onto other things.
No, and I don't want to say, I don't mean to say that it like took away too much. It was just like, I would be so into it and then something would happen where I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Like, they
fair.
give us such a grounded world and then they're like, oh, we have a smartphone that literally only plays one video.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, you know, these guys are all, he's a hyper aware mutant who's super fast and can whatever. Oh, doesn't hear a car coming at him.
Yeah.
Like, the violence is super grounded and really graphic, and grenade goes off 3 feet away. You're fine.
Yeah. Just like, it's pretty realistic throughout most of the movie, but it's like oh, we kind of need this plot detail to work, so we're just
Exactly.
gonna kind of forget about that for a sec.
Exactly.
And I think they had to make like a major bad guy. Like they had to make Metal Arm Guy. I didn't even care about him. I didn't even care if it was.
Well,
the
I guess
same
that's what I'm saying. Is
guy
like
the whole time.
I don't have a problem with him. My thing is they didn't need to have a grenade go off. Like just have
Yeah.
them shoot Caliban.
Yeah.
Or like have Caliban grab a gun. Like it wasn't grenades there. It was a gun, and he realized like.
Sure.
Because I feel like that was part of it. Was like they were finding Logan and Laura because he was leading them to them, but he didn't have a way to stop that.
I think they kind of needed it, like, because the explosion kind of unsettles everyone. Like, X-24 kind of loses his bearings, and
Maybe.
I don't know.
Then maybe just don't have Metal Arm Guy be in the truck at that point. I'm just
Yeah.
like, there's so many different ways to handle that wouldn't have cheapened some aspects of the violence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's fair.
But that was really like that's my biggest gripe is just those handful of times where it's just like I'm so into it and then something pulls me out.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right.
Cool.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
That's about it for me.
What kind of trivia do you have for us? A waka waka trivia Sid. Waka what?
Let's see. I don't have too much, but Hugh Jackman induced dehydration for 48 hours prior to filming any shirtless scenes.
Seems really unhealthy.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't recommend it to people. But I mean, he looks really dehydrated.
He looks haggard.
Yeah. Whenever Xavier was having seizures and like Hugh Jackman had to act like he was being pushed away, he just like, I don't know, didn't. So they had to have two men like restrain him during those scenes.
And they just like CGI'd out the cords.
Rope. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
So the director, he commented that not only did like the R rating help with just like the violence, but it helped him introduce like more complex scenes, because this wasn't going to be for kids, so like he could have longer scenes, more ideas explored through dialogue, and it was just kind of like he was able to do more.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean when I talk about like that I get more excited for a movie if it's rated R rather than PG-13. That's more what I'm referring to, is that like oftentimes that means that the director has been unshackled to tell the story that they really want to tell.
Yeah.
And you can tell even just like the difference in vibe between this and any other X-Men movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like when you unshackle somebody like that.
Yeah. So during any of Xavier's seizures, they filmed it by shooting shaky footage and then reestablishing the frame in post, and that is pretty much like what made it look, all shaky. And
That's cool.
Yeah,
That
it was
is
really
cool.
awesome. When auditioning for the part for Laura, Daphne was asked if she could improvise her lines, and then she just like started screaming in Spanish, and they and then they just like incorporated it.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I love that scene when she's in the car just yelling.
Yeah.
Screaming at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Logan only smiles 3 times through the whole movie.
Does it say what they are?
I was paying attention. The first time was when he got flashed. I didn't.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I didn't catch the second time, and the last one was just like as he was
At the
dying.
very end, yeah.
While Laura is very stern in the movie, there were many times where they had to reshoot her fight scenes because she was having too much fun. And just like
Just laughing.
yeah. So there is kind of like an explanation for why there's no mutants and why there's no new mutants, and it actually has something to do with the high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, they did. They said that they distributed it through the fructose corn syrup to like repress the gene.
Yeah. So pretty much that's pretty much all it did. And then I don't know if it's for the movie, but in the comic book that this was based off of, Logan is dying because the adamantium is radioactive from the Hiroshima explosion that he was in like one of the past movies.
They say that it's the adamantium poisoning him, or he suspects that it is.
Yeah, I mean that's
but they
what
don't
they
explain
say
why. That's
in the comic.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. In one of the past Wolverine movies, the one where he's in Japan. Yes.
That's X-Men Origins, right?
No, that.
Or is that the Wolverine?
That's just the Wolverine.
Okay.
The one girl Yukio, she like prophesies his death. Your chest ripped open and your heart in your hand. And a lot of people have like, I mean, it's a little sappy, but it's kind of like, I mean, his chest is ripped open, but he's like holding Laura's hand.
Oh,
and she's so sweet. And it's so beautiful. And pretty much throughout the movie, Logan mentions that he would like to kill himself, and kind of eventually he does because X-24 kills him. So.
Hey.
Yep, that's all I got for you.
That's some good trivia. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wrote it myself. I did all that trivia. I
Good job.
took shaky cam. I worked on this movie, actually.
That's
why you know.
Yeah, I know all of
James
this.
Mangold?
I am. Sorry to keep a secret.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Tell some of your Hollywood friends about our podcast so that they will listen to it.
Yeah,
Oh,
you'd
no
think
problem.
you'd have connections, right?
I'll just like in my next movie, I'll be like, hey, what are you up to today? Oh, nothing. I'm just listening to, and then I look straight at the camera. We watch movies and then talk about them. Wink, and then you go back.
Perfect.
Can't wait.
That's amazing.
In theaters next fall. It's a movie
Can you
about.
make it any sooner? Because that's like
in
a year
theaters
away.
next week.
Beautiful.
It's
Wow.
yeah.
Congratulations.
I'm a really good director. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up now.
All right, let's do this. Becca, what are your final thoughts and rating out of 10?
Okay. I don't think I have much more to say about this movie. I really like it for all the reasons that we've talked about. And I definitely don't think it's a perfect movie, but it's really enjoyable, and there's a lot of themes and a lot of ways to apply it to life. I think it's an important movie. I will rate it an 8 out of 10.
Right on. Sid?
Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about this one. I would say it's a very good like superhero movie when you want to break from the classic superheroes. Yeah, it's very different from what you get. It's just like kind of 3 times a year from Marvel and DC. And I'm gonna give this one an 8.3.
All right. Yeah, I think that I've said my piece about this one. It's very enjoyable, and you should check it out. I'm going to give it an 8.4. 8.0, 8.3, 8.4. I think that rounds us out to like an 8.3.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ah, crap, I got to type this in, and I can't see my keyboard. 8.3. Great. That puts it right on par with 28 Days Later. That's probably fair.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Great. That will conclude our discussion on James Mangold's Logan. If this is where you leave us, we do understand. You can get in contact with us at email contact@wewatchpodcast.com, or find us on any of the social networks at WeWatchPodcast. Let's quickly do other topics. Really, all we've been watching is Mindhunter and MasterChef. So
I've been watching a ton of dumb movies at work, but I don't need to talk about them.
yeah, you saw Dora and the City of Gold.
Yeah, and Angry Birds 2.
Ooh.
And we watched some movie on Netflix called Murder Mystery.
Ooh.
With Jennifer Aniston and Adam
so
Sandler.
Sorry.
I watched Princess Bride this week, though.
Nice.
That was a good one at work. So anyway, not really worth mentioning.
Nice. I watched The Descent.
Ooh, that's a pretty freaky one.
That was fine.
Yeah.
That was all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's enjoyable.
It's still, I mean, I probably wouldn't watch it again.
I'm not claustrophobic, though,
I kind of am.
so that didn't get to me as much.
Uh-huh.
But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
How about you?
I've actually watched a lot.
Ooh, let's go.
I watched, let's see. Oh, I watched Scared Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Ooh, we
Oh,
also
yeah,
saw that
we
actually.
did, yeah.
I thought it was pretty solid.
It was way better
Yeah.
than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, like, you guys telling me to go into it expecting a PG-13 scary movie, like, really helped my experience with it. But yeah, I thought it was just really fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, I like that one. And then I went to go see Ready or Not.
How was that?
That one was also really fun. It was pretty stupid.
We like
but-
I tried to get Becca to go the other week, but like she wasn't super stoked on it, and I wasn't excited enough to like push for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
we just
It's
didn't go.
definitely like if you're just like, I don't really have anything to do, let's just go watch like this mindless movie. It was pretty fun.
Also, I'm glad that we have a woman who's now going to make her career just like taking the roles that people want Margot Robbie for but can't get her.
That's exact. Austin turned to me and he's like, she just looks like a cheap Margot Robbie.
Every single time that I saw the trailer, I was like, "Ooh, what is Margot Robbie doing?" And then halfway through, I'd realized that I had seen the trailer before,
Yeah.
and that it wasn't Margot Robbie.
Oh, that's not her. Yeah, she looks exactly like her. Let's see, what else did I watch? I watched Goodbye Lenin.
Dude,
I thought it was really,
it's
really,
really good, huh?
The only thing is, like, I had a little bit of a hard time just like getting into it
Sure.
and getting connected. I think part of it was just because it was in German, and
Well, and there's the historical context
Yeah, I
that like you
definitely-
didn't grow up
I
with.
definitely didn't understand that. But I still like it was really, really good.
Yeah. You can hear more about that on our episode Intro to International and Foreign Cinema, where I talk a little bit about Goodbye Lenin, 'cause it's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Was really good. Solid recommend. And I
Why?
watched.
What led you to watch that?
It's been on my list.
Has it?
You talked about it sometime last year.
Oh, okay.
And I put it on my list. For
Oh,
this
okay,
year.
great.
And then I watched Goodfellas. It
Ooh.
was so good. I really,
I haven't
really
seen
liked that one. Like, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Scorsese because his movies are just so long.
Sure.
But this one it's about like 2.5 hours, and I don't know. It was great, and it was just really interesting. And I like normally don't get super into like gangster movies like that, but it was great. Ray Liotta was great. Joe Pesci. It was just a really, really solid movie.
I'll have to put it on my
A
list.
lot of great like New York accents.
Ooh.
Amazing.
I think that's. I mean, I can double check my list, but I think that's everything. I should have my list pulled up for this section because
And like I said before, like I finished the first season of Fargo, and it was great.
Anybody out there, the Fargo TV show, it's on Netflix now, right?
It's on Hulu.
Oh, it's on Hulu. Is a great.
Yeah,
I think we could try that again.
and I'm very excited.
We tried to watch it and you didn't like it.
Well, it was like
too dark.
right when I came home from my mission.
Yeah, it was too dark.
You were like, "This is not the Minnesota I know."
But
Yeah, that's why you wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
Like, no.
And then like the first season, they like just brutally murder a guy with a shotgun.
Yeah.
But the second season is even better than the first.
Yeah.
Kirsten Dunst and Jesse Plemons like destroy that season.
Oh
They
my
do
God.
so well.
I'm so excited.
The other things that we want to talk about. We have tickets tomorrow to go see the director's cut of Midsummer.
You have to tell me how it is.
So very excited for that. 9
I
p.m.
guess we could have invited
Yeah,
you, but
okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be at my parents' house.
That's true. Yeah, so we're going to see that tomorrow, and I'm very, very excited. See
How
it for.
much longer is it?
I think it's like 175 now.
Okay.
It's one. It's like it's like just under 2.5. So now it's
Okay.
just under 3. I think they added like 25 minutes, is what it said. Which is a lot to add.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a Seinfeld episode they've added.
yeah.
I'd love it if just like
Now I'm
literally in
just
the middle.
picturing Seinfeld.
No, like that scene where they
They
walk
just-
up and they're like, the children are watching Austin Powers, and they're like, cool. But you walk in and like they just think that Seinfeld is Austin Powers, and you watch and they just put a Seinfeld episode in the middle.
And you just
That'd
watch
be
the whole
great.
episode.
You just watch an episode of Seinfeld.
It'd be like a good break.
And then I guess that gets us into next week. We all have our tickets to go see It Chapter 2.
Yay!
Which we will be bringing you our coverage of next week as kind of a compendium of the 2 parts of It. We'll talk about both, I'm sure. Because I'm sure it's going to be hard to talk about Chapter 2 without talking about Chapter 1.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
So that's that.
Yep.
Is there anything else?
That's it.
I don't think so.
Tell your mom about our podcast.
Tell your mom, tell your dad, your brother, sister, great aunt.
If you have
Yeah,
a
we always stick
stepmom,
with
tell her
mom,
too.
but
Yeah.
really anyone. You don't have to tell your mom. You could tell your
Well,
friends.
no, you should tell your mom
Well, yeah.
and then move on to telling other people.
Sure.
I think I've said this before. Tell your mom. Start a phone tree. Get it going.
That's great.
Yeah.
If we could get an email forward that
I'm pretty sure we have talked about this
have we
before.
talked about this?
I
like
think so.
tell 10 people about We Watch Movies and
if
talk
you
about them
don't,
and
then
you'll get
you'll
7 years of good
die.
luck.
Then you'll die.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of that, Arrow Video, which is like a boutique label for horror movies, is doing a release of the Japanese Ring films
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know if
I
I
don't
could
want to
do
see
that.
those.
that I definitely want to purchase
no,
and watch.
No, because you tried to make us watch those last year, The Grudge and The Ring, the Japanese versions.
And we couldn't because they're not available anywhere.
I know, but I really, really didn't want to, and I super don't want to.
Why not?
Because that sounds horrifying.
I'm going to buy it.
They're already scary.
I'm going to buy it.
Ugh, I
They-
don't think I could do that.
I think because they have like a box set of there's like 3 Japanese Ring movies. There's like the Ring 1, Ring 2, and then like a prequel. But then they have a steel book of just the first one. And I think I'm gonna buy that.
I just feel scared owning it. Like,
So I think I'm gonna
Bring
buy
this
that.
evil into your house.
yeah, even though we have plenty of scary movies.
I guess that gets us into in the next couple weeks we will be releasing the calendar for 31 Days of October.
Mm-hmm.
Our yearly tradition where we watch a horror movie every day for the month of October.
Follow along. Watch
Yeah.
the movies with us.
Yeah, for sure. And we want to thank you guys. Once again, August has been our best month yet, which beats July, which was our best month yet up to that point, which beat June, which was our best month up to that point. Basically, since January, we have topped ourselves every single month. And that's all due to you guys. We do pretty much entirely word of mouth advertising. We just hope that you guys will share the podcast with people who share similar interests. And we would love to hear from you guys. Any movies that you would like us to cover. We definitely take requests. And you can do so via email at contact@wewatchpodcast.com or hit us up on social media at WeWatchPodcast. And I think that'll do it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We thank you. We love you. And we will see you next week with Mr. Pennywise the Clown. I'm Andrew.
I'm Becca.
I'm Sid.
And we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.